I forgot to get a cigarette. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm here. Sorry about that. mm, sorry, I hate eating on stream, but mm-hmm. Just cracked me a bubbly water. This is a watermelon lemonade bubbly water from Trader Joe's. So good. Mm. Anyways, I'm sorry. I didn't bring you here to watch me eat. That's not what I tried to do. My bad. Hi, Sue. Do you mind if I eat some pizza while I'm talking to you? This timing wise, the pizza was ready right when my show was ready. Mm. You can just listen to me chomp pizza while we wait for the people to show up. Mm. Anything good on YouTube today? Seems like it was kind of boring day for YouTube. Mm. You don't mind? Okay, good. Cool. That's a relief. I don't want to gross people out. Hey, Camellia. Nice to see you. I'm finishing a piece of pizza. I hope you don't mind. Mm. And then I want to get into talking about some deep stuff, the big picture. Mm. Well, because it seems like, as for the flat Earth discussion, it seems like it's been, you know, sort of sufficiently explained. Um, it'll never be done, but I'm just saying it's like we're all aware of the fact that the flat Earth is a thing. What do I think of Rose's stream earlier? Oh, Rose, she had a good stream, although it's kind of scary stuff, really. Mm. I mean, not scary, but it's pretty intense. It seems like it's up there on one of the bigger conspiracies. And it's not even really so much a conspiracy in the sense that it is all spelled out for us to go see maritime law and all that shit, common law. I'm almost done here. Mm. The way they got it designed, where they keep part of they keep umbilical, your umbilical cord or something. It makes sense on some level, but but it's dark, and it's strange thinking about how many people actually have to know about all that for it to continue. I mean, there's a lot of people that are just going through the motions. They don't realize what they're taking part in, like the doctors and the umbilical cord and all. They maybe just feel like they're just keeping records, and it's weird because it would have to be. It's so like designed in such depth. Like there's so many different nuances. Like they spent so much time designing all of it. The system, the maritime law and the common laws. Common law is older than maritime law, I guess. But maritime laws is it's like we're lost at sea, and that much of it seems significant, and that it seems biblical. Waters above, waters below. Mm, that was my last bite. Sorry. Mm. But the way they have it rigged up is it's not really like it doesn't seem like it's in our best interest. And it's not. We never have it explained to us, so that's it's sort of underhanded in that way. The straw man, your name in all caps, your birth certificate, all these sort of like marine sort of references. I mean, for me to really do a stream or talk about it, I mean, I'd have to do some research. I know the gist of it. And I can kind of bring up certain points, but like I don't. I'm not the guy to talk to about that, but it's super interesting. Rose did a stream. Who was the person she had on her stream earlier? Some dude. He was kind of like he's a little bit full of himself, kind of, but maybe rightfully so. I don't know. But he was talking some big talk, like his letters that he was writing to people in government positions were like they'd resign after they read his letter or something. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. Like I guess we do have a right to separate from it. Like for what it boils down to, really, for me, as far as I'm concerned, is like it's just a bunch of people talking. Like if you play along with their game, then there's all these weird little things that you get caught up in. But like, it really, that's what it boils down to. It's just a bunch of people talking and a bunch of. It's none of it's like, none, none of it's real on one hand. I mean, it's real if you're participating in it and you're doing so, you know, I guess willingly. But it seems like more one of these sort of like manufactured consent type of things. Kurt, and that's his name, Kurt Kallenbach. I need to watch that whole stream though. I'm sure he probably got in depth with some of the stuff that I'm trying to regurgitate now. I can't quite do it justice. I watch Burn the Corporate Fiction channel sometimes when he's talking about law and stuff. And he's pretty knowledgeable and all that. It's a shame that he calls into Sav's show all drunk sometimes because he kind of, for me, he kind of loses face a little bit, like loses some credibility because he calls in and he's all buzzed, and you can tell he's not sober. He's drinking and he's like saying things that are just, they're off. Like he's like he doesn't have the same demeanor that he does when he does his shows, and it's kind of a buzzkill. But he is a very knowledgeable guy when it comes to like the streams that he does about law and everything. But anyways, I was going to talk about some cosmology. Um, but yeah, that's you're right. That was a good show that happened today. That was good. I didn't really see anything else on YouTube today. I don't think I did much YouTubing. But I've been thinking about like all the sun worship and all this, all the sun like we have so much. I mean, it makes sense for me. Like the cosmology that I'm discovering, or you could say that I'm designing it. Whatever. I'm just sort of discovering it. It's our cosmology. The sun is like the focal point, but it's not God. And my idea, my view of things, God created all of this. The sun is part of it. It's a very central part of it. And it's interesting how I mean, it's pretty hard to miss, as far as like going back, I mean, we have the solar system, we have you know, the, then we have the heliocentric model and all this, and then we have these sun worshippers and, you know, the bringer of light and all this stuff. There's all this like fucking secret societies that are all like, see, the cosmology that I'm discovering. I don't want it to be something that's kept secret. I see no point in doing that. Why? Why? I just don't. I don't find any interest in. I don't see any reason to do that. But I'm not like. I'm not trying to have more power than somebody. So I guess that's why I don't get it. But like when you think about just all the sun references, like I was thinking about Israel. Israel is Ra. It's spelled Israel. It's not real. It's Rael. So it's Israel. And I guess Latin, I mean, it's kind of backwards. Like when you have is at the beginning, it's not. You're not asking a question. It's more like a statement. It's Israel. Ra is the sun. You know, Ra, Ray, it's the sun god or whatever. Ra and El. Well, that means God also. And it's like so. I guess the statement Israel is like the sun is God. Is kind of like what that word seems to mean as far as I'm deciphering it. The sun is God, and I don't agree with that. I don't think that's true. But I think there's people that do think that's true. Israel. I think we draw our the sun is the source is where we get our spirit, our soul. It's a soul. That's what Latin. That's what the sun. That's how you say sun in Spanish. Soul. That's where we get our soul, our spirit. And our spark of life. Our spirit is light. It's visible. It's energy. Whenever you see light, it's energy. And so we look up in the sky, we see the sun. That's the main source of light. It's obvious. So that's where we draw our soul from. Soul, sun. And the stars are just small fragments of the source. Like that's the stars up in the sky are spirits. They're people's souls that have gone to heaven. That's why they're small. The sun is, the source of soul, and the stars are a piece of the sun. All the stars that we see in the sky, there's a lot of them, but I think we're looking at a whole sun's worth of souls up there at night. All the stars. I think we're on our second sun, and the old sun's still floating around up there. We have all these stars, that have all gone to heaven. Those are all souls that have gone to heaven. They didn't go back to source. I think you can either go to heaven or you go to source. The source, the soul, the lake of fire, the source. And then you try again. It's like every time there's a soul being spawned here on Earth, it's drawing it right from the source. There's a sunspot right where that soul used to be, and people move, go on, they die or whatever. Their soul goes back to source, or they go to heaven. Because our spirit is light. It's energy, and we see the same kind of light energy up in the sky. And we have all these ancient tales of lore, like the whole like heaven and all this kind of talk of the heavens. It's not like I'm like reaching too far to really make these conclusions. And I think all the stars up in the sky, it's like a whole sun's worth of souls. I'm sure there's some souls up there that are from our sun right now that we have, but I think a lot of them are from the previous sun, which is still floating around up there. Like I say, it's It's easy to spot an old sun, like I was saying yesterday. It's like you just have to think about it like a sun when all the souls have spawned out of it and they've all gone to heaven. None of them are going back anymore. They're all living perfect lives and they go to heaven. The sun becomes depleted and you know it gets it gets there's less souls up there. There's less source, and so it's not as bright anymore. And the souls that are living down here on Earth at the time, they see what's going on and they feel it too. It's colder, and they have to actually. It gets too cold, and there's still a sun, but it's just not warm enough. They have to go underground in order to stay warm. And there's generations of people that were living in the ground. I mean, they'd come up to the surface here and there to do things, but it's like it was mostly underground living because it was just warmer down there. And that explains all the underground dwellings. I mean, there's all over Earth. There's these crazy underground, cities and dwellings. I mean, there's to great depth. I mean, there's like, I mean, if you ever want to go down a rabbit hole, just start looking up all the underground shit that's going on in the world. I mean, it's incredible. There's definitely evidence of societies having lived underground, and why would they do that? Why on earth would you want to live underground? Nobody alive right now thinks that's a fun idea. Nobody would want to go do that. Yet that was done. There's plenty of evidence suggesting that that's what happened. There was people living in the ground, underground. And why? Well, because it was too cold up here. The sun was being depleted. It was getting down to the end of its last souls, and it was like the people that were living down here were too cold. They had to go underground to stay warm. And that's why there's all these underground, evidence of underground cities where people actually lived underground. It's not something you do for any other reason. Like you would just do it because you had to. It's not something anybody like right now would want to go do. There's no reason to, and why would you want to? It's not. It's not like a good idea when you when you have no reason to. So it was done out of necessity, the way I see it. And yeah, like I said, it's easy to spot an old sun. You just have to imagine the sun. It's like this source. It's like this hot, like this bubbling, boiling, like this whatever suns are made of is light energy, but it's just all concentrated. But when it finally goes dark, the last soul spawns and it's dark. It gets cold immediately, and and the sun, what's left of it, the husk of what's left, the vessel that carried all the source, all the souls, it immediately hardens, and like whatever fluid, it hardens and it goes cold, and you can spot an old sun because it's full of craters where all the bubbles were popping and boiling and stuff on the surface. And when it hardens, it just leaves all these craters where the bubbles were and stuff, and so it's all cratered, and it's not glowing anymore with its source, but when the new sun shines on it, it charges it up, it absorbs light. It's not absorbing souls necessarily, it's just absorbing light because it charges it for temporarily, it wears off, and it's easy to spot an old sun too, because the thing is, when a sun is born out of the earth from the north hole, there's a hole in the middle of the earth, the north hole. It's been photographed. People know about it. And it's born right from the middle of the earth, right there at the fucking central, right in the middle of earth, right where it starts its circuit. Boom, it starts doing its thing. But it breaks off an umbilical cord, just like a person does when it's born. It's like as above, so below. And it activates it and it sends it way up in the sky. That's just part of the whole program here. Run program. God said run program. And if you look at one way to spot an old sun is you look for its belly button, because it had its part where it was connected to the earth, from an umbilical cord. And you can spot an old sun by the craters and you can see its belly button. I mean, it's all cratered, so like but you have to know what you're looking for. The belly button is pretty easy to see. You just have to know you're looking for a belly button. You'll spot it right away. It's obvious. I mean, because the craters kind of make it confusing, but the belly button definitely is distinctive. It looks different. I mean, you can tell that it was attached to an umbilical cord there at one point. I'm talking about the moon, but yeah, it's the old sun. And guess as of late, there's been not that many sunspots. They're saying that like the fewest amount of sunspots that they've seen. I just watched some show that came on YouTube recently, and the guy was saying, "Yeah, there's not that many sunspots. It's really kind of strange." And he was kind of seemed like he was sort of concerned. He couldn't explain why or anything, but he was just saying, "Yeah, this is the fewest amount of sunspots we've seen in a long time." And I think that's obviously probably what's happening is because there's the birth rate has dropped significantly because of you know what happened in 2020. The not 2020, but just the magical cure that came along um, that that likely led to a lot of sterilization, sadly. But ultimately, all that is doing is just prolonging the life of this source. I mean, it's just there's that many less souls being drawn out of the sun. There's that many less sunspots forming. But I mean, life finds a way. We'll overcome this. I don't think that was, you know, it was just it's delaying the process because not everybody got the jab. By the way, I didn't. A lot of people were quite aware of what was going on. Nobody who knew what was going on was ever going to come anywhere near that shit. It was bad news. Um, what's up now? I think it's interesting how people will argue for the globe Earth still, when all you really have to do to realize that the Earth is a level plane is just imagine the expanse of Earth. Like I say, it's really this easy. The bigger the piece of property, like Earth is, imagine Earth as being one big piece of property. Okay, and well now, people have smaller pieces of parcels. It's like you put a perimeter around a piece of property, and the bigger the piece of property, the bigger the perimeter that goes around it. And that's just fact. It's obvious. And you can get a bigger piece of property, it's going to have a bigger perimeter around it. And you just keep going like that. The bigger property, bigger perimeter just gets wider and wider and wider and wider. We have no reason to think that there'd be any exception to that rule at all. Nobody would ever expect there to be an exception to that rule if they were just out there making perimeters and, you know, expanding their property evenly in every direction. It would just get wider and wider and wider and wider and wider. Nobody'd ever sit there and be like, how come it's not getting smaller? Nobody'd ever have that thought because you're adding more land within your perimeter. More, could be water too, but whatever. It's just like you're adding more earth within your perimeter. It just gets wider and wider. There's never going to come a point in time when you're going to get a smaller measurement. It just keeps getting bigger. That's just a fact. There's no exception to that. Even Globers will agree with me. Like I was talking to Sean Hawkins in Flatzoid's chat today, and I just caught him off guard, I guess. And that's what's so fun about this one, about this flat Earth um, argument that I have, which nobody else seems to pay any attention to. But that's why it's fun because nobody expects it coming. Sean Hawkins was trolling everybody hard in Flatzoid's chat, and just talking shit and calling people names and stuff, and just typical crap. And I came at him all politely. I was all, "Hey, Sean Hawkins, do you agree with me that a bigger?" And I haven't really interacted with him, so he doesn't really know who I am. He's not the only Glober in the chat, so he didn't know whether I was coming at him with flat Earth bullshit or whatever. He didn't know. And so I just came at him. I was all, "Sean Hawkins, do you agree with me that a bigger piece of property will always have a bigger perimeter?" I said something like, "Do you agree with me that the bigger the piece of property, the bigger the perimeter around the outside of it?" And he's like, "Yes, I agree." And I'm like, "Good, good." And I said, "Would you agree with me that there's really no exception to this rule?" And he agreed. I'm like, "Okay, that's fantastic," and then I just couldn't help myself. I'm like, "Okay, well, why are you here arguing against the flat earthers? Because you clearly think of the Earth in the same way I do, and I'm a flat earther. So if we both view the Earth in the same way, we both think of the Earth in the same way, like, why is it that you're here, like, being mean to flat earthers and acting like it's stupid or something? Like, you just basically told me you're a flat earther without realizing it. And he didn't, like, and he must have seen my comments, but he just stopped talking to me at that point. And I thought it was funny. I continued with my, you know, comments, even though he was ignoring me. I was just like, I kept writing the comment, like, why are you, because he'd just go back to, talking trash to people. And I'm like, why are you being mean to flat earthers? You just proved to me earlier when you answered my questions that you think of the earth the same way I do. I'm a flat earther. But he wouldn't respond to me. He had to have been reading my questions because I was, flagging him in the chat like he had to have seen his name popping up, and I know that he had seen it prior to that because he had responded to my questions, but once I got him cornered on that, like, he had to have realized where I was going with that, but then he just pulled out of the conversation. He didn't want to continue talking with me because I was right, and because I got him to admit that he thinks of the earth the same way I do, the same way everybody does, really. That's the thing, is everybody actually is a flat. Nobody really thinks of the earth as forming a 3D shape. There's no point in time when, like, a person who's expanding their property evenly in every direction, there's no point in time where that person's ever going to be like, I wonder why my property line isn't getting smaller. I keep adding more property. Why is it not getting smaller? No, nobody would ever say that to themselves. Now, unless they were like, you know, unless there was a point in time where they're like, well, like, shit, I almost own the whole world. They might think to themselves, well, how is it that I have a perimeter that's like 40,000 miles around when the biggest circumference you can make on the globe Earth is only 25,000 miles around? How is it that I have a circumference around my property that's like 40,000 miles? How did that happen? Wait a minute, how come it's not getting smaller? Because you see, the thing is, on a globe Earth, after you've acquired half the Earth, half the available space on Earth, say, say you had the northern hemisphere or whatever, the equator would be your property line. So after you own half the Earth, and then you're going to continue buying more, continue expanding into the southern hemisphere, for lack of a better word. Well, we're pretending we're on the globe Earth now. So it's like after you go past owning half the Earth, now your property line starts to shrink, because now your property line is no longer circling the property that you own. After you go own more than half of the Earth, your property line is circling the property that you don't own, because that's all the space that's left. And so now you're just still acquiring more property, but your property line is shrinking, right? It seems crazy, but that's what would have to happen on a globe Earth. And in fact, that's how you would falsify a flat Earth, is you would just go out and you'd have to physically mark all the latitude circles on the face of the Earth. You'd have to go physically mark them, and make the first circle at the North Pole, and then 69 miles and make another one. 60, no, I think they're 69 miles apart. Maybe that's the latitude line or the longitude. I forget, but at any rate, they're evenly spaced out, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger until you get to the equator. That's the biggest one you're going to get. Although they say the equator is a straight line, but whatever. Anyways, now they get smaller after you own half the Earth, because you're now circling property that you don't own. That's why my riddle kicks butt. Because my riddle is this: if you were given the North Pole, the circle at the North Pole, and you were told that's your piece of property now, that first latitude circle, whatever, I guess it's maybe it's a 90th, or I don't know how I think they start at 90 and they work down to zero. Is that what it is? Or 80 or 90? I don't know, I should know that. But anyways, you're given that first circle at the North Pole, and you're told, look, you won the concentric circle lottery. All you have to do in this lottery is just step outside of your circle that you've been given and make a new circle around the outside of it, a bigger circle. That's your new property line. So now you own that much more property. And in this concentric circle lottery, this is the game. Like, this is the rule. You can step outside your property, step south of your property, make a new circle. That's your new property line. You own that much more property, and you can just keep doing this indefinitely. So As the person who wins the concentric circle lottery, you quickly realize, wow, I have an ever expanding piece of property here. This is amazing. Sure, it's going to take a while. You have to step outside your property, make a new circle, step south out of your property, make a new circle. And you have much more property, making concentric circles around the outside of each other. They keep getting bigger. So you continue like this. You're like, wow, you get some friends to help you because the circles are getting pretty big. And your property keeps expanding evenly in every direction with the North Pole right in the middle. And it just gets wider and wider and wider and wider and wider. And and here's the question: do you think if you were, all variables aside, if you were to continue doing this, circles around circles, do you think you would eventually own the whole entire Earth if you're just left to continue doing this exercise indefinitely, all other variables aside, like time and property, like money or people, like whatever, all the other things aside, like if you're just able to continue expanding like this, do you think you would eventually own the whole world? Most people say yes, and I think that's the correct answer. But I'm a flat earther. The thing is, on a globe Earth, here's the thing. I forgot to tell you the key piece of information, the key rule here that you have to remember. Granted, you have to understand that you only own what's inside the last circle you drew. But I said you can keep drawing new circles around the outside of your previous one, so they keep getting bigger, right? But you have to remember, you only get to keep what's inside the last circle you drew. So do you think if you just kept doing this indefinitely, all variables aside, that you would eventually own the whole Earth? That's the question you ask somebody that you want to turn into a flat earther, or somebody that maybe is giving you a hard time about being a flat earther. And then they'll be like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, of course you would, because you're just expanding outward and you start at the North Pole. Eventually, you keep moving outward and you're just going to end up circling the whole world eventually. But technically, if you live on a globe Earth, the most you would ever own in this thought experiment is half the Earth, because you make it down to the median, which is the equator in this case, like, and that's the biggest circle you're going to make on the face of the Earth, the globe Earth, 25,000 miles around. All right, you own half the world. Now, after you move beyond the meridian, because that's the rule, you move south, circle around, that's your new property line. So you're just moving south. You make a new property line around the outside of your previous one. But now, on the globe Earth, your circles start to get smaller. And no, it doesn't make sense. Where it's in the sense where it's like we're adding more property, but now we have a property line that's smaller than before. That's the thing, because now your property line isn't circling the property that you were circling before. It's circling property you don't own. But the thing is, in this thought experiment, that doesn't matter. You only get to keep what's inside the last circle you drew. So after you pass the median, you're circling a different area now. And that circle is going to start getting smaller. You're inside the circle now. So every circle you make past that is going to get smaller. And you're not adding to the property that you had before, because the thing is, you get to keep what's inside the last circle you drew. So after you pass the median, yeah, you keep making circles, but now they're circling a different area. It's a head fuck, and that's because we don't live on a globe. But the thing is, if we did live on a globe, the most you could ever own in this thought exercise is half the world. Because after you go past the median, your circles start to get smaller. Globers will come back at you and they'll be like, no, now you're just circling the property you don't own. You still have all that other property. You're still getting more property. Your perimeter is getting smaller because you're circling the property you don't own now, which would almost make sense. However, in this thought exercise, you only get to keep what's inside the last circle you drew. So you'll never be circling something you don't own. So try again. The most you'll ever own in this thought exercise is half the world if you live on a globe. Now, if you live on a flat Earth, like I believe we do, then yeah, eventually you will own the whole world, because you'll just keep expanding, in every direction evenly, and it just gets wider and wider and wider the way I think it really does. Well, if you're an ant on a basketball, blah 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 blah. The thing is, there's nothing that you can point at and be like, it's kind of like that because there is no incident or instance where there's going to be creatures living on the outside of a ball somewhere that's suspended in nothingness while all the creatures that are living on this ball feel like they're standing right side up. None of them feel upside down. And, you know, all over the whole ball, even though they're opposed from each other, one's up here, one's down here, neither one of them feel upside down. There's nothing you can point at in nature that is anything like that. Granted, they claim that's what we're living in, but there's nothing that they can use as an example. I've heard Globers come at me. They're like, "Oh, what if you're ants on a basketball?" Then I'm like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." Except for the ant's gonna know when he's upside down. He's gonna have to hold on tighter or whatever. Dome scalp. Cone heads are real. Is that why they all had the same black tap top hat on back in the day? They're like, everyone on the black top has the same damn black top hat on their damn fat head. Everyone on the black top has the same damn black top hat on their damn fat head. Maybe they got a cone head under that top hat. Everyone's got one. Everyone has one. You notice all the people in the old world, all back in the old days, they used to all shop at the same fucking store. All their outfits are the same. And they all have the same damn black top hat, and on the top of that, pop like that, like a tongue twister. Say say black top hat on the fat head. Everyone got the same black top hat on the top of the fat head. Everyone's got the same damn black top hat on top of the fat head. The fat cone head. It seems sus to me. Why would everybody have a black top hat? I mean, sure, like you could go out and like say you go to like a a gathering where there's like a concert or something. Everybody, you get like a cross section of society. There's all these people that went to see the show, and like there's going to be a lot of people that are wearing their hats. Some of them are going to be sideways, backwards. Some of them are going to be like like whatever. There's going to be some people wearing baseball caps. Some people wearing like whatever. There's going to be different kinds of hats and different styles and different ways people wear them, but not everyone's going to have one. I won't. I might, but the thing is, not everybody's going to have a black top hat on their top of their head. Not you go to any gathering anywhere in the world, that is not everybody's going to be wearing the same clothes with the same hat on their head. That's sus. That doesn't happen in reality, but apparently it used to. You go to a world fair back in the day, every single dude at that place had a black top hat on their fat head, and every chick was all wearing these big dresses. You know, there was like a dress code back in the day, unspoken maybe. I don't know. It's like you reach a certain age, you gotta. Now, even the kids had black top hats on their fat heads. Everyone's got the same damn black top hat on the fat head. Everyone's got the same damn black top hat on top of their fat head. And I think that's sus. I think they were all cone heads. That must explain that. I agree. Cone heads are real. That's the only explanation I can think of. Why would everybody have a black top hat on their head? What the hell? I mean, what? There's got to be a reason for that. I mean, that's what I would have done if I was back then. I'd have been a hat maker. I'd make black top hats. I'd sell black top hats because you're going to have customers. I don't know what the competition was like. I mean, I'd imagine there's probably a lot of tap top hat makers, but I'd go into the top hat business. I think Israel. Does someone want to answer me a question here? I got kind of a tough audience. There's not a whole lot of talking going on here. But okay, so the Jews, are they from the tribe of Judah? Is that what the Jew thing is all about? Jews, the Jews. Now they like stake this claim of Israel, and they're like, Israel is ours. It belongs to the Jews. It's like we're the chosen ones to get to have this land, Israel. So, from the way I remember the Bible is like there were 12 tribes of Israel. 12 tribes of Israel, not just one. And so I would think that the other 11 tribes could just as easily move in and say, hey, no, this is our promised land too. Like, what are you talking about? Israel, there was 12 tribes of Israel. Everybody knows that. It's like fucking common knowledge, right? So what the fuck? How come it's only the tribe of Judah that gets to inherit it? Why are they being so greedy about it? Why don't they share it with the other 11 tribes? For all we know, the fucking Palestinians are one of those tribes. I mean, probably are. It's like they've always lived there. Like, what's the story there? I mean, there's got to be some. I need some answers. What the fuck? How come it's just Judah and Israel, Jews and Israel? It's like there was 12 tribes of Israel in the Bible. It wasn't just one. So there's some kind of like disconnect going on here. And like I find that to be strange that that's not being spoken about more. Doesn't that seem strange to anybody? It's a good piece of trivia to bring up. Because I mean, I can't even say that I think those Jews that are in Israel are even the real tribe of Judah. For all we know, they're just some, you know, wankers. I have no idea. But they certainly seem to be like claiming that heritage. But don't they remember the Bible? We're talking Old Testament, you know. I mean, this is like the 12 tribes of Israel. You know, Moses led them out of Egypt to their promised land, but none of them actually made it there. Their offspring did because God was, or the Lord God was upset with them for being complainers, and Moses talked them out of like killing them. Lord God was kind of a moody. I don't think Lord God was God. No, that's not my opinion. I think Lord God was Lord God. I think was the creator. Lord God was this different character. That's just what I think. I mean, you don't have to believe what I believe. But what I believe is that these people are following the Bible, you know, and that's where they got their whole claim to Israel, these tribes of Judah and the Jews. So, did they forget about the other 11 tribes? At what point did that happen? I mean, why isn't that a thing? Why isn't anybody talking about that? You guys don't find it very interesting, I can see. I don't blame you. It's a real touchy subject. They got really like uptight about it. You can't even say anything that's remotely like taking away from their glory, or you're just going to be like sent to El Salvador to rot in a fucking prison the rest of your life. Should have never opened your mouth. We're sending you to El Salvador. Sorry, I got off topic. We're talking about cosmology. Now I'm talking about like politics. It's horrible. It's terrible. It's garbage. It's bad. It's not good. I think Trump needs to be reminded that there's 11 other tribes. You know, it's not just the tribe of Judah. There's other tribes. There's the Levites. There's the I don't know what they all are. I mean, I'm not a biblical scholar. I just know that there was 12 tribes of Israel, not just one. But it's just funny how the Jews in Israel now are just like synonymous, and it's like, well, what about the rest of them? Come on, man. Did I miss something here? Was there a part of the Bible where all the other ones got outed? You guys don't know. I don't know. Whatever. Something to think about. Anyways, I can tell you guys are pretty bored with my show. I'm gonna wrap it up. But I love you all the same. And thanks for coming here to watch me. I'm running out of things to talk about. I'll be back. This won't be the last you see of me. Cheers.